There's a lie that most men are told from very early on. And that lie is that if you're nice, if you make everyone happy, if you avoid conflict, that you'll be rewarded. So you follow the script, you become the good guy. You provide, you protect, you try to make those around you happy, you compromise yourself to do so. And what that does is it gets you where you want to be a lot of times in business. Maybe it keeps the peace, quote unquote, but in your relationship, it leads to the spark dying. It leads to you becoming a doormat. It leads to you building resentment in the quiet. It's not virtue. This is just basically like a nice guy syndrome. And so the thing is, yes, we want to be nice to people and we want to avoid conflict where necessary and whatnot, but not at the compromising of our values. When you're a man who compromises their values and people pleases, what ends up happening is that everybody starts to see it. And it just becomes very unappealing to most people. They will see that you're not living in your authenticity. You have to be connected to your true purpose as a man. And if you are, then your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your friends, your colleagues will be one of respect, because people will respect that you're moving towards your purpose and embodying your values. It's one of those things that is hard to put it into words, but you can see it on people. You know when somebody is being inauthentic, when they are compromising themselves and not living up to their purpose and their potential and their values. And as a man, this is crucially important. So if you think about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is what I work in, you can think about intention. Behind every behavior, there's a positive intention, with the exception of egregious behaviors. But like, for example, let's say you're being nice to keep the peace. Well, maybe you're being nice to keep the peace. The positive intention is to keep the peace. But really behind it, it might be because you're afraid of conflict. So there might be a motivation there that is just you don't want to deal with conflict. So there's a positive intention of I want to keep the peace, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the behavior itself is justified, right? Sometimes you need to not keep the peace because sometimes an argument is necessary or a conflict is necessary. A lot of times behind like typical nice guy behavior is a manipulative strategy. It's developed early on, and it's something where you learned how to hide your needs to please others. And that kept you safe, right? So the motivation became to stay safe. What I will say here is that you don't really want to face the fact that you're just afraid, because fear is something that most people don't want to face. And the thing is, a lot of people, a lot of men will avoid setting boundaries because they fear the conflict and they don't want to deal with it. You hear people say, happy wife, happy life. This is a ridiculous way to live. Happy wife, happy life is not the move. The move is be a man of purpose, have a purpose, and have a partner who respects your purpose, and then you can respect each other. And that's the way that it should be. When you hide your truth to keep the peace, you're going to start basically a conflict within yourself. You're going to feel inauthentic. Inauthenticity is one of the worst feelings that you're going to experience as a man, probably just as a person in general. But if you're a man and you're living in a way that is inauthentic, it's like just a constant suffering. Now, I know because I've been through hardship in relationships. I've gotten divorced. I've been through hard stuff, but I'm in a very amazing relationship now. And what I can tell you is that in my previous marriage, I went through a period where I just did the happy wife, happy life thing. I built up all this stuff, and then eventually I got to the point where I wanted to avoid conflict. I didn't want to deal with it. I just wanted to keep the peace and all these things until eventually my boundaries got so eroded that they didn't exist anymore. And I was miserable. I felt inauthentic. My wife at the time stopped respecting me, and it just became a real problem. And eventually our marriage fell apart for many reasons, and it was a great thing that it did, because now I'm in an amazing relationship. I was able to work on myself and build myself up. And the way that I approach my relationship now is so much different. It's so much more aligned. It's authentic. and it's just beautiful. And that is an amazing thing when you can get that. And this doesn't just apply to marriage and long-term relationships with a partner. It also can be in your friendships with your coworkers and colleagues and all of that. So the alternative to being the nice guy is not becoming a jerk. So let's be clear on this. It's not about starting problems. It's not about, being overly argumentative and being arrogant and all that stuff. It's not about any of that at all. Think about anybody that is a historical figure that has embodied things. I'm a Christian, so I'll think about Jesus. Jesus was very nice to people and was amazing to people, but he didn't have this nice guy syndrome. He didn't just people please. Jesus stood on business, even when it cost him everything. And that's what I mean. You can be a good person and treat people really well and still stand on business and still live out your purpose and live an authentic life. That's what we're talking about here. This is becoming the integrated man. It's somebody who can have healthy relationships, healthy boundaries, provide safety, and also be dangerous when they need to be able to handle things, be able to stand on business, be at the ready. This is what we're looking to do in our lives as men. The nice guy asks for permission. The integrated man states his intent. This is an important distinction. The nice guy waits for the right time to act. The integrated man acts and handles the consequences, stands on business. When I was running my agency, I realized my nice guy tendencies, and it cost me a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of effort. And that's just the way it is, because if you're people pleasing, you're putting yourself last and you're not doing what's best for those around you. And that's the thing. By people pleasing and not having the boundaries and doing what you know you need to do, you're actually hurting those that you're trying to take care of a lot of the times. Because by doing what you're supposed to do in a leadership role, it requires making hard decisions. It requires having people not like you sometimes because you're doing what is best for those that you're responsible for. And this is crucial. So how do you actually fix this? You don't just decide to be confident or whatnot. You have to rewire. And this is a big deal. So what you have to do is you have to first be able to say no to things. You have to be able to stand up for yourself and say no to things. So the first thing to do is simply that. Be ready to say no to things that you know are not aligned, that are not helping you on your purpose. That's the first step, is to be able to do that. Now, you're probably going to feel some anxiety when you first start to do this, but this is the first step to building up the boundaries again, being able to say no to things. And then you have to be able to endure the anxiety, breathe through it, and go from there. Now, what you can do that will help you on this process is you can do an NLP practice. Close your eyes and visualize yourself, your ideal self, the version of you that is living their purpose, the version of you that is fully aligned, living it out the way that you believe you should be. Go ahead and just close your eyes and do this. You can do this practice where you visualize what values is that person, what values do you embody? The future you, the ideal you, what values are there? What qualities does that person have? So just really experience that and visualize it and see how that aligns with where you're at now. And it gives you a target to go for. Now, I'm not going to go through all the NLP practices that will get you there, but the first step is going to be starting with that visualization process and being able to visualize the ideal you. Be able to come up with what are the qualities that I'm looking to embody, and then start to implement those in your daily life. You can even go and actually find times where you've had those as your main qualities. Bring up those memories. Make them front and center. Make those memories bright and loud. And maybe even tweak some of those memories that are in your face where you're being reminded of shortcomings. Maybe you make them dimmer, further away, quieter. I'll go over more NLP techniques in future videos, so stay tuned for more.